Hi, welcome, and welcome back to Hartford Stage's Seen and Heard Live. Here we are. It's the 8th week, so this is the 8th time we've come to you via Zoom. I thank you if you've joined us before for joining us again, and I welcome you to this very informal conversation to be a placeholder while our theater's dark, while we're not able to be together in the great building that is Hartford Stage and sharing all the stories on the stage. At least we can share some stories through this medium. Today, I'm really honored, grateful, looking forward to having a conversation with Joanna Galitis and hearing all about all the different professional lives she's led and how many of the professional threads of her career connect back to other artists who've also come through Hartford Stage. So greatly looking forward to today's conversation. Glad you're here. I'm going to first introduce my cohort, my co-CEO, Cynthia Ryder. Welcome. On again, off again, Cynthia Ryder. There she is. Now she's here. So
did a double click.
Yeah, here we are. So I'll leave it to you, and I'll be right back.
I just want to add my welcome to Amelia's and thank all of you for joining us on Seen and Heard. It has meant so much to us to be able to look and see how many people are thinking of us and supporting us and wanting to connect with each other through this new platform that we're all learning how to use, and the really interesting, entertaining, and inspiring conversations we've been able to have that we maybe never imagined that we would. So thank you for being here with us. I want to also thank you. So many people, over 300 people, have stepped up and made a donation to our matching challenge. We had a small group of board members and other donors come together, and they issued a $100,000 match, the matching challenge. So they said that they would match dollar for dollar up to $100,000 any gifts that were given towards this challenge. And we want you to know that we are at $96,879. So it's possible that even this evening we could meet that $100,000 challenge. So if you have the ability to make a donation right now of any size, it would really go a long way, and your dollar becomes $2, your $50 becomes $100 because of those generous donors. We'd love to be able to report back to you tomorrow or at next week's Seen and Heard, if that's the next time you're back, to let you know that we've met that challenge. So just over $3,000 to go, and I'm sure we can do it. So many thanks to all of you who have obviously already given, some 330 plus of you, and gifts of all sizes. So no gift is too small. We so appreciate the support. You can go to www.hartfordstage.org and you can donate online there, or of course we accept old-fashioned mail as well if it's easier for you to just write us and send us a check at 50 Church Street. So we're thrilled to have you, and back to you, Amelia, and your guests.
Thanks so much, Cynthia, and really thank you all for your support. We know these are difficult days for everybody. So anything, your presence, your gifts, your caring about the arts organizations around you and all the service folks around you really means the world. So Scott, you want to give us some nuts and bolts for anyone new to our Zoom life?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Hi, everybody. So I'm just kind of in the booth tonight, and just to want to let everyone know, tonight we will really utilize the Q&A feature. So as our guests come on and the conversation continues, if you have a question that you'd like to bring to the forefront, please use the Q&A option that should be on your screen. There's also going to be some really valuable information, sharing some of the background information about our guests tonight in the chat feature. So take a look at that, and our artistic associate Rachel Alderman will be sharing that. And lastly, at the end, if you've been joining us, we really like to end our Seen and Heards with a communal toast, and we slowly bring on people's videos and microphones right at the end. So if you would like to come on and join in our virtual toast, feel free to click the raise your hand button, and then our staff and I will know to bring you on. So those are the couple things to know tonight, but enjoy the conversation. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks so much. We've become a bit of a talk show team. We never intended this, but desperate times lead, etc. So in thinking about guests and what would be interesting for everyone on Seen and Heard, I was thinking through my own life and career, and somebody who's had an enormous impact on me, whether she intended to or not, is Joanna Kalidas. So it made me think about mentoring. We're often mentored by people who don't necessarily know they're mentoring us, and we mentor others consciously and not, often by our actions and by the work we make. So it made me think of two artistic apprentices who've been with us this season. And, you know, we always start off with a scene, and a playwright that has been instrumental to many of our lives and who looms large in many of the stories we're going to tell today is Maria Irene Fornes, a Cuban-American playwright. And before we go into more detail about her work and Joanne's work, I want to bring on our two extraordinary apprentices who are now in South Carolina and in Arizona. I want to welcome Sally and Jasmine. So here they come. They're going to read a scene from Cuban-American playwright Maria Irene Fornes's play Fefu and Her Friends. So Jasmine Gunter, Sally Lobel, welcome. We miss you. Jazz, we would all be right now working on Wilderness, which would have opened this week, which would open on Friday. Jasmine was assisting all the directors throughout this season, and Sally was dramaturging on all the productions. So it was an experience cut short, but we're really grateful that you two are here. And Jasmine, I'll hand it over to you to talk about Fefu and Her Friends.
Yeah, so Fefu and Her Friends is a play where Fefu invites, it's a play about a group of women, and Fefu invites all of her friends to her house. And so the scene that Sally and I are doing centers around two friends reconnecting.
A drink?
Yes.
What would you like?
Bourbon and soda. Lots of soda. Just soda. I'll have a ice cube with a few drops of bourbon.
1 or 2 ice cubes.
1. Something to suck on.
She's unique. There's no one like her.
Thank God.
But she's lovely, you know. She really is.
She's crazy.
A little. She has a strange marriage.
Strange? It's revolting. What is it like?
He's crazy too. They drive each other crazy. They are not crazy, really. They drive each other crazy.
Why do they stay together?
They love each other.
Love?
It's love.
Who are the 2 other men?
Fefu's younger brother, John, and the gardener. His name is Tom. The gun is not loaded.
How do you know?
It's not. Why should it be loaded?
It seemed to be loaded a moment ago.
That was just a blank.
It sounded like a cannon shot.
That was just gunpowder. There's no bullet in a blank.
The blast alone could kill you. One could die of fright, you know.
True.
My heart is still beating.
That's just fright. You're being a scaredy cat.
Of course it's fright. It's fright.
I mean, you were just scared. You didn't get hurt.
Just scared. I guess I was lucky I didn't get shot.
Fefu won't shoot you. She only shoots Philip.
That's nice of her. Put the gun away. I don't like looking at it.
Great. Thank you both. Thank you very much. It's a little excerpt from Fefu and Her Friends. So Sally and Jasmine, stay on for a minute so I can make personal introductions across the generations as I bring on Joanna Kalidas. Joanne, your bio encompasses, as you and I talked today, many careers. I mean, a career in the theater, but many different iterations of it, right? I mean, the amount of work. Joanne is a 5-time Obie Award winner, including an Obie for Sustained Excellence. She's a founder of Mabu Minds. Hi, Joanne.
Hard time starting my video, and now here I am.
Well, it's good. You're here.
Yes. Oh, Amelia, it's so beautiful to see you.
Well, I was going to sing all your praises prizes first.
Okay.
I'll do a briefer version. I could talk about Joanne for a long time, but she has staged works by Euripides, Shakespeare, Strindberg, Schiller, Beckett, Genet, Williams, Philip Glass, Janacek, her own work. I also remember the Jane Bowles play, right? Oh my God, I love that. In the Summer House. Oh, it's like these things come back. So it's not in the bio I was going through of yours, but it just came through. And at theaters, including Hartford Stage, where she did her first Tennessee Williams, but also Lincoln Center, New York City Opera, the Goodman, the Mark Taper Forum, the Court Theater, the Opera Theater of St. Louis, the Guthrie, and the New York Shakespeare Festival, which is where we met. Joanne was a director in residence, and I said to Sally and to Jasmine that, you know, given all our ages and our influences, I remember walking into an office with Joanne and our 3 office mates, that's surreal time, which we can talk about in a bit, that we shared. But Joanne, it's just really so wonderful to have you back at Hartford Stage. So Sally and Jasmine, before we go further, I just wanted to sort of open it up to you guys. Is there anything? Jasmine is, as I mentioned, a young director. We talked about Irene Fornes's play Mud because she used it for one of her grad school interviews. And Jasmine is Northwestern is very lucky. Jasmine will be attending there for their MFA in directing, and she's also a Drama League directing fellow this fall. So it's, or this summer, right? It's this summer.
Well, next summer. So
right, next summer. It's time with no time. And
yes.
Sally has done an extraordinary job of keeping the dramaturgy work at Hartford Stage just at an incredible high level of artistry and excellence. So any questions for Joanne from you guys?
Yeah, so like Amelia said, I recently directed the first scene of Mud, and I remember being so intimidated that I called Amelia to like get out all of my thoughts. So I'm curious, because I know that you recently directed Mud, like what was your approach to that scene? And secondly, how do you approach difficult plays or things that might intimidate you? Like what is your approach for that?
Well, first, thank you so much for your work. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, tomorrow would have been Irene's 90th birthday. So it's so moving to me to hear her wonderful, lively, sparkling, mysterious language from 2 young theater artists. The thing about Irene, and it's, you know, once you get it and you put it in your DNA as a director and as a performer, I think it's harder for a performer, is that every scene starts in the middle. Every scene starts in the middle, and it's all a revelation and a surprise. And once you put that inside and you don't look for any arc of the scene, beginning, middle, and end, then you're a little bit ahead of the game. But you're never ahead of the game with Irene, because she continually surprises. I mean, listening to that, I thought, hey, I thought I knew that play well. I don't remember the thing about the gardener. It's so mysterious, so delightful. And approaching what's scary work? All work is scary.
Right. Awesome.
It's all scary.
Oh, Vicki, are you there? I want to bring on dramaturg Vicki Abrash. Sally, I'll introduce you to Vicki. It's not fair to only have directors and directors. We'll have dramaturgs and dramaturgs. And also connect, sort of, there's going to be so much connective tissue with all these things. Oh, Vicki, nice backdrop.
Vicki, hi.
Vicki, you're muted.
I am.
Yep, now you're not. But what I wanted to share, since this seems a good segue, is we'll go through, there's so much of Joanne's work to visit, but you two worked together on the Fornes, on a Fornes marathon. Right? I mean,
This was a vision that Joanne had, and it was amazing. It was 12 hours straight of plays by Irene Fornes. And part of the purpose was to hold up, Irene was still alive at the time, was to hold up her work because not everyone knows and everyone should know it. And it included dozens of actors and directors. Joanne directed a couple of just such stunning segments that all of which I want to see realized. But then, you know, so glad that you were able to do the productions that you did of Mud and Drowning. But so many people, so many experienced theater artists were there and said they weren't familiar with Irene's work. It was extraordinary. And that was, it was so gratifying, and it was such, I think it's an example. Joanne, you were one of the most brilliant directors that we have, but you have such an expansive vision beyond your own work, which is enough. It was an amazing thing to do, and I think it had real impact. I think a lot of people know about Irene's work that who didn't know about it before.
Well, let me use that as a segue. So Jasmine, Sally, keep asking questions, but we'll have you exit stage left, as they say, just for now, but come back and talk to us. Because we have a photo of that production of Mud, and we have some of your team from Mud, Joanne, right? So Paul Lazar is here. Here's a photo of it. And we can bring on Paul, since Joanne just talked about acting in enough Fornes work. So Paul, I think you're here. We also, we have extraordinary company. Jennifer Tipton is here, one of the great lighting designers, period, right? And who's graced the stage, who has lit the stage of Hartford Stage a number of times. We'll talk a little bit about that too. But I kind of want to just invite everybody on. Yeah. Oh, hi.
Hi, Amelia.
So, hi, Paul.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Hi,
Where's
Jennifer.
Joanne? Hi.
Welcome back, everybody. Jennifer, welcome back to Hartford Stage. It's so wonderful to see you all.
Great to see you.
So where to begin? Let's talk, Joanne, can you talk a little bit about you'd be right now opening Mud.
No, what would we be doing? We'd be talking about something. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'd be rehearsing or something. We would be getting ready to, I think, load in next week.
In California.
In San Francisco. Yeah.
Right. So this you guys did this in New York. But Joanne, you have a whole history with this play, and I think Paul and Jennifer with Joanne as well, right? You guys.
We did. We started in Carmel at Philip Glass's Days and Nights Festival, where Mud was a sort of straight reading, and Drowning was Philip's opera of her half-hour opera of her 5-page play. So Jennifer lit that, and then Thomas Dunn lit the New York production. And Kay Boyce, who I hope is with us.
Kate, you're here too, right, Kay?
Kay, where are you? Where the hell are
you?
Kay.
Hey.
So, and check in the chat for everybody's bios, so you get a sense of what great company we're getting to keep today.
This is an amazing group. I'm so excited.
Hi, Kay, welcome. Welcome back to Hartford Stage as well. Folks, all these people have done great work at Hartford Stage. Joanne, I'll let you say hi. So you guys started as a group. How did the work evolve from the first time you worked on it? Paul even has a whole history of different roles in Mud, yes? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, when we did it in Carmel, I briefly was Henry. And then I was Lloyd in New York. And then 20-something years ago, I was Lloyd at the Signature Theater as well. And Irene was around during that that one.
How's the experience of working on the same play over all these years together, over this period of time? Tell us about that. What is that? I mean, I know every time I revisit something, the privilege of revisiting is rediscovering, right? You're a different person when you step into that work at a different time. Wondered what your thoughts are on that.
I'm going to say one thing, and that's all. Because having played Lloyd 20-something years ago and playing it now, it was an exciting experience both times. But the depth of it this recent time was profound. In fact, I discovered, because Lloyd is pretty mentally impaired, and so I think I had years back didn't associate the role so tightly to myself. This time I felt that it was utterly autobiographical, the role, in the sense that it really described my own emotional life to me as I recall it from ages about 4 to about 9. All that rage, all that hurt, all that sense of injustice, all that sense of triumph, it all felt extremely personal this time. That was just weird. I didn't anticipate that, but that's what happened internally.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
He never told me in rehearsal, never mentioned it. It's nice that actors have their own private.
Right, the secret. Joanne, you were talking before about Irene's language, and at Hartford Stage, you worked on Tennessee Williams, and you have also relationships with the works of Beckett and Shakespeare. I mean, with a lot of different kinds of language. I wonder how it feels to be in those different rhythms and those different idioms for all these different artists.
Oh, well, the first thing is they're different, right? That's why. And there's no, I don't know. I can't. It's just so hard to answer. I mean, I put Irene, and I've said this a couple times, that I think Irene is like the forgotten one in the pantheon of great modern writers. I think she's up there with Samuel Beckett, with Pinter, and with Carol Churchill. Then there's Shakespeare, who's created his own, who's some kind of bodhisattva who created his own world that I don't know, God knows what the hell that is. And there, I can't answer because I don't ever think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just, oh, well, here we are, page 1, scene 1.
Yeah.
Gotta get to work here.
I'm just going to bring us back to Hartford Stage for a minute. And I know it was a while ago, but on Sunday last summer, I read a bit about how you talked about discovering Tennessee Williams on that production. And I think, right, that Mark had invited you.
Yeah, he invited me, and I was so thrilled. He is our greatest American theater poet. And the juiciness of jumping into his world was so delicious for me, and also with such a wonderful company, and working with the first-rate production team, design team, and the doors that Tennessee opens for actors are so simple and yet so psychological, poetic, and thoroughly down-to-earth American.
And Jennifer, you lit that production as well as many others, but
yes, I did.
Can you talk about what that was like in terms of lighting Williams versus lighting another writer? I don't know how language lands for you.
Yes, well, I must say that Tennessee Williams is one of those playwrights that you must follow what he says. I find that there are many other playwrights where you can have your own ideas and have directors have different ideas from the playwright. But Tennessee Williams, you must follow what he says.
Kay, I guess a question for all of you would be focused on Joanne a bit, if you'll all indulge me, is, I know it makes Joanne, I feel slightly uncomfortable, so forgive me, but what are first days of rehearsals like with Joanne? Vicki, in terms of what the dramaturg's doing, I don't know, first day conversations with actors, designers, what's the feel, any of you? What's kind of going on in those first days in the magical Joanna Kaleidos rehearsal room?
I think my first, the projects I've worked on with Joanne have been events, and the first day has been the day that I've been involved. So that's something I think entirely different, but I would love to hear what it's like for actors and designers to begin that journey.
I think it's always so exciting because it's the first time that we're not in a small room together just discussing the ideas and the possibilities, and all of a sudden it's like you have actors really speaking the words, and I feel like Joanne gets so energized by, I like watching her listen to the words with the actors, all of us around. There's a sense of real kind of warmth and generosity and really just embarking on this journey. And I feel like, I feel like after rehearsals, we often talk about things that, Joanne's discovered that day. And I feel like it's just like the next step, and every day is also kind of a fresh day.
I guess I think of the first day as the first day when we did it in New York, because we had a first day in California as well, but that was maybe more, particularly in terms of mud, more in a reading mode, it seemed to me, or I don't know. Anyway, the a striking thing about the first day in doing the New York is that we would get physical life away from the words altogether, very exploratory physically, entirely away from the language, which already for me I believe set us on a track where music and the body would be maybe more of the shared language than the shared language of psychology. Mm-hmm. Not that it's not, psychology isn't present. It didn't seem to me, but it's just on the ladder of what was most, the bulk of the shared language might have been more musical and more physical. In the lead.
Those are things that I really remember about your rehearsals, Joanne. Even crashing them at the public would be everyone on stage of the Newman throwing balls and working out. And Bruce McVitie, I saw the week I was trying to get into Mud and couldn't get in because I was too stupid to call Joanne and say, get me in there. I tried so hard, you guys. But Bruce was going to come to a reading. Folks, if you're tracking, this was the same week as the Johnny Baseball reading. So it's all kind of we're all in the stew together. But Bruce said he couldn't come to the reading because the warm-up for you guys before the show was almost as long as the show, right? That the physical work was so very important. Jennifer, in your light is always like is a character, I think. It's one of the extraordinary things is the lighting is so crucial and revelatory.
Well, thank you. But on a first day, I never feel that I know a play until I've lit it, really. It allows me to go deeply into the play. And of course, the path of the director, Joanne's path helps me in that way. So it's always exciting in the first day of rehearsal to hear for the first time different voices as different characters. And that's truly exciting to me.
Scott and Rachel, if there are questions, I don't want to, I'm not following the chat, so feel free to jump in with questions. Or if there are no questions, we'll keep going. If I want to go back a little into Joanne, even before I knew you, I'd love to talk a little bit about food and directing, because I will say that I got engaged and married while working for Joanne at the Public. And she gave me a wedding gift of the first cookbook I ever owned. I was not, yes, see, all this shit you don't remember or don't know that you've had influence. It was the Silver Palette Cookbook. Yep. It is now, I should show it. It's completely coming out of the binding. We've used it so much. But I have, and Vicki, you had stories about being in Joanne's with food. I think you all have stories about Joanne and food in theater. And I just, you even had a restaurant at one point, yes?
Well, I worked in a restaurant called Food, which was started by a group of artists led by Gordon Nada Clark, and actually Tina Gerard, who died last week. That was very exciting because none of us knew how to run a restaurant, and pretty much everyone knew how to cook, but did not realize that restaurants actually are businesses where you dream up, you fantasize about what you could put together with what you can't put together. The actual rhythm, the dynamic of cooking. When I first worked there, I made lunch. I was the lunch cook. So I arrived at 5, and at noon had to have lunch for 200 people with the sous chef. And it's nerve-wracking. It is absolutely nerve-wracking because the people are coming in the door, like the audience is coming in.
Right.
And there is the show, and that show is something they are going to eat.
So it's like rehearsal and opening you're in tech and opening simultaneously.
It's terrible. It's really, really very, very, very hard because it's the constant repetition of that dynamic. There's sort of no in the rehearsal room, let's take a break and talk about this moment. There is no talking about, and we were all amateurs. So, I was also like a dessert chef, and I would take the New York, I realized that, baking is chemistry, so I would take the New York Times cookbook for chocolate cake, and 180 times 1/8 of a teaspoon is not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily work. It doesn't necessarily work.
Now is there a question now? I know there was an issue with the mic before, backstage as it were. So
we do have a question a little bit. Someone was mentioning about Mabou Mines, and if Joanne is still involved with Mabou Mines and what they're working on. And I know there's a Hartford Stage connection to Bill Raymond with Mabou Mines, who was
Dear Bill. Yeah.
We have some pictures of Mabou Mines, so maybe we can just show a couple of the productions from Mabou Mines, and then we can hear a little bit about that. Dead End Kids was the film that we listed as an option that you could go in and see, since the Mabou Mines website is great. There's so much going on there right now. You can really learn a lot. It's a
treasure trove right now.
It's a treasure trove. Vicky, I think you introduced me to Mabou Mines when we first, Vicky was my dramaturg at the Public when I was directing Blood Wedding when Joanne was artistic director.
And I remember that beautiful, beautiful translation, and it's an impossible play, and it was I remember it deeply.
Thank you. Well, that was, Gloria Foster, right? We lost a great one in Gloria Foster. So that was, and Elizabeth Pena, who's also passed.
Yes.
Not recently. I don't mean to alarm people. There's enough of that around us. But but Mabou Mines, Vicky, your experiences.
When I first heard about Joanne's work was Dressed Like an Egg, which many people said was, which I didn't see, but I heard one summer everyone was saying it was the most influential thing in their lives. And so I was eager to see Mabou Mines' work. And Joanne, you've just, again, such a huge range of kinds of work. Dead End Kids, which we just saw, Through the Leaves, which
Through the Leaves, I still see Ruth Malachek and Fred Newman in that embrace. Seeing that on stage, that whole, you also introduced us to Kreutz in many ways. I don't think Franz Xavier Kreutz's work was very well known before Joanne. Sorry, Vicky.
No, I think exactly. I think, Joanne, you've introduced us to a lot of different work, a lot of different kinds of work, and that you just, that you've done revelatory work in so many different directions. And I don't know, you can speak to Mabou Mines now, but I think your work threading through what you've done with and for Mabou Mines and what you've done elsewhere, the breadth of it is really astounding. And I think some of what you said about Irene, I think applies as well, but just so influential on so many other artists. I don't know if there's anything to say about that.
Yeah, I don't. We can bring on Annie B. You're there,
Annie,
right?
There?
Annie B. is there. So Friends of Hartford Stage, just more connections as we talk about influences. So Annie B. and Paul Lazar worked together. They co-directed, and Annie B. choreographed, and Jennifer lit Man in a Case at Hartford Stage. So just feeling the generations and all the connections in the work. And I was lucky enough to work with Annie B. many years ago on Tony Kushner's Dybbuk, which Annie B. made truly extraordinary. It's really one of my favorite collaborations with the wonderful Claudia Stevens, who we have to get back to work with us as well. But so Man in a Case, and Paul, so you're moving through Joanne's world, you're moving in directing with Annie B. Jennifer, you're seeing all of these ranges of work. What are similarities and differences in any of the styles or productions? I know there's tons. Just trying to get all of you to say some of them. Jennifer, you're muted.
There are tons in Joanne's work, there are tons of differences.
Right.
And I've been thinking recently, I don't know why, about the screens. Jean Genet's The Screen.
Oh, yeah. At the Guthrie.
At the Guthrie, which was just one of the life-changing productions for me. And I've always been so sad that we've not been able to do it again.
A legendary production, which I wish I had been able to see. Just yeah.
Was that taped?
I found it life-changing.
Do you guys know? Is the screens? It wasn't. Yeah. It wouldn't be the same, but in this moment. Well,
Amelia, we have another question from
please.
The audience. So from Dan Lombardo, he says, it's fascinating to hear you say all work is scary, something most of us feel too. What is it that's most scary or challenging when you begin each project?
Oh, to walk in the room, to open the door and walk in the room is terrifying. And to pray that one can eke out a sentence and then another sentence and hopefully a paragraph that might make some sense to one's colleagues, compatriots, collaborators, and then and that comes from a real, being involved in work that is you don't get. I mean, I think there are directors who direct plays they understand. I only direct plays I don't understand, so that's harder still.
Right.
It's not, oh, they're difficult playwrights. It's just, I don't understand this writer's work really, but I would like to. So it's the same old deal. It's called fear of the unknown.
I've always felt that if I stopped being terrified for each new thing that I do, I would stop lighting.
Yeah, the fear is linked to the adventure too. Do you guys dread? I know for me, first preview is just this, which is to say the first time an audience sees the work. I don't know if audiences know. I mean, for me, that's just a reason almost to stop doing the work is how I feel on that. Jennifer, you're shaking. That's not for you so much.
No, you just have to live through it.
Of course you do, but it's so effing unpleasant. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember we did the balcony, Jennifer and I at ART. In the first preview, we hadn't finished the play. We hadn't finished, and I was hiding, standing on the toilet seat.
Yeah.
Because Bob Brustein was looking for me. Intermission was approaching 1 hour or something. And then the second act was 25 minutes long. The second act was shorter than the intermission. But I was standing on the toilet.
Just to not be found.
Hiding from the artistic director.
You were not that to me. I hope I'm not that to any of you when you come.
No, never.
Never. Annie B, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I'm just listening.
Oh, sorry.
I concur. I guess, hello everyone. Hi, Jennifer. I guess I feel like not so bad on the first preview, I'm more horrible during rehearsal, because I guess once I'm in the first preview, I feel like almost like there's the relationship between the piece and the audience. I just need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Like there's a path, and if I don't get out of the way, I'm going to be knocked over by a bicycle or something. And then that I need to step out of the way in a sense. So I just, it's earlier that's worse for me.
It's first day, first preview and opening. And it's like whatever, when there's that change in the temperature, the blank page of first day, and then other voices entering. I love your image of it, Annie B. I think that's more positive. Getting out of the way of the runaway bicycle. I think I'll hold on to that. Scott, are there other questions?
Yeah, we have a question from Masha. For Joanne, but kind of for anybody. During this time when we have a lot of space for reflection, do you find yourself returning to any particular production in your mind?
Oh, I find myself returning not to a production, but oddly enough, I'm reading early Samuel Beckett. And it's partially because I have time now to sit here and look out the window, which I am at Tompkins Square Park. And I don't normally do that. I'm kind of rushing around. And that means I could turn my head to the right and see a whole bunch of Beckett books right there. And I could lean over and pick up one of those Beckett books and then say, holy shit. Reading early Beckett stories is what I'm doing. When and when Beckett was so screwed up, scatological, crazy, paranoid, messy. It's a great pleasure, So it's more like, oh yeah, there I better read that Euripides stuff again. It's all right there, and it's because there's time. It's time to turn my head to the right, and then when I look down there, holy crap, I better read Maggie Nelson again. Here she is, The Art of Cruelty, which is very important for theater artists and theater fans to read. So I think it's less about looking fondly at productions and more looking fondly at writers.
Yeah. How about anybody else? It's a great question.
I'm climbing the Magic Mountain. Oy vey.
Oy vey is Mia. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if people say oy vey that much in Thomas Mann.
Well, they're not for long, at least.
Right, yeah. And then also I have this solo that where I do a movement and then I tell these stories by John Cage. And I just before the pandemic hit, I agreed to perform all 90 of his stories. They're all 1 minute long. So I need to create an hour and a half of movement without any repeats. So I have a big project that I can do until they find 11 vaccines.
We've
That's
got
what
another.
I'm up to.
Hey, Amelia, we've got another great question. When we're able to gather again in a theater, what plays are we craving right now? What do we want to see?
And can I even add the addendum there? Because Joanne, you and I talked about this a little too. Like, what will that be like? I mean, do we all gather again in theaters in the same way, or what happens next? And sort of where the fantasies go of that stuff. Trying not to go too dark. Just if I could throw out something Joanne said to me earlier today, which I loved, is that you'd never, Joanne, you said you'd never intended to be in rehearsal rooms for the European model of 7 months and one piece and heavy drapery somehow, right? Stuff and big budgets, and that it sort of links back a little to what you were doing with Mabou Mines and even with Fornez and with the Centennial event you put together, the spontaneity of work. I just wonder if you could talk a bit about that, some of you, as well as what kind of work to see. What's the substance of it? What's the texture of the kind of work that we should be doing now and next?
Well, I'll just say that in the short version of that, I don't think there is any particular thing that one should or shouldn't do, but I think there's no question of people wanting to gather for theater in one way or another, and I think a lot of people are making theater in their living rooms right now. I think going back to reading aloud to each other and such, people who maybe didn't think they were theater makers. So there may be different models and different forms, but I don't think there's any question about it being something that once people can be together, that people want to be together and share.
Right, share stories in some form.
Yeah, but I also think there's the big thing, the big wall. And the wall is what should we be doing? What do we long for? And on the other side of the wall, someone wrote, what the hell is this? What is this? There's a context here, and the context is geopolitical, and I use that awful word capitalism, the ugly fruits of capitalism, of greed, of Broadway tickets costing $400, $500, $600, $1,000, of the monetary value of culture, of is culture necessary? That's because everyone's own culture is real. We know, society's in trouble, need culture. Then they probably do. Yeah, I guess so. But then, what culture? There's a whole new game here, whole new tabula rasa, I think, and it's unbelievably terrifying, but potentially inviting to a brand new creativity instead of let's make up the old one only 6 feet apart or 6 seats
Right.
apart.
And I would say, Joanne, you've been doing that all along. You've been not just sticking to the old way, but thinking about what you want to communicate and how all along. But I think you're right that it's more people are seeing the world that way because everything's been shaken.
Annie, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joanne.
No, nothing.
Annie, what were you going to say? Something? I keep your screen.
No, I was just coughing, but of course I'm thinking about all these things so much.
Yeah.
I think of it more from a movement or a dance perspective, that it's so interesting to watch how dance just persists, like nurses in the emergency rooms are dancing. People are just making dances with the poetics of Zoom, and Zoom does have a poetics, and there's new forms happening. It's literally like digging in soil and breaking worms in half and then watching the worms reform into different organisms, So I always feel like dance is the most interesting form to watch because, okay, I'm biased, but because it's so far away from the marketplace, Amelia, nobody ever makes money. So it just holds.
So there's a freedom, you think, to that. You're never
this underground spot. I mean, I wouldn't say nobody ever makes money, but very, very rarely. So it can hold on to that experimental moment very, very naturally. And so I think you'll see, like Joanne's saying, some amazing new forms. It will be absorbed. The world will lens down on this moment. The audience will see our work through that lens, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious about it. I'm very curious about it, to see how it affects everything and affects the body in space. And P.S., because the pedestrian world is given so many physical directives right now about dealing with their body in space. People are behaving like dancers on the street.
That's really interesting. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I've worked with non-dancers, for decades, and they have no spatial awareness. That's what they share. Anybody can be taught spatial awareness, but typically a non-dancer, that's what they lack, is spatial awareness, first and foremost. And people's spatial awareness is so heightened right now because of all these directives. And I think it's interesting to watch.
I love how you're phrasing it, because I've been watching sort of how ghost-like and balletic figures in masks trying to counterbalance each other, and how they'll cross the street when they see, and they're trying to anticipate.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of, you feel like you're in a you know, Fellini movie, or at least, right? I mean, you get the
I
sense
wish we
of,
were.
yeah, better clothes.
But yeah, there's a lot of choreography. Yeah, better clothes and better music. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of choreography going on outside and inside. Super DIY. I mean, I think video, I mean, just basic observation is that video is going to look different because you can't go back to using video the way people used it in theater after living on a screen for this period of time. It's just going to appear different to us. I think we're going to experience it differently, and we're going to use it, I hope, use it differently.
Amazing. I think
Make Man in a Case differently?
Excuse me?
Would you make Man in a Case differently?
You know, Man in a Case, hi Jennifer. Man in a Case was about Misha and Chekhov. So I'm not sure either of those two people are ever changing. I don't know. I'll have Paul answer his version, but that would be mine.
Ooh, would we do it differently now because of what's transpired? I think that the piece as we did it would sort of be resonating in a wholly different way, like it already is in the moment that I thought of it. I thought of this figure who's so isolated, you know,
He's
that,
yeah, I mean, he's already sheltering in place.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be a whole contemplation on the marriage of sheltering in place with the psychology of sheltering in place. So I think things just start meaning something else as soon as you're in another moment. I'm glad you asked that question, because I re-saw the piece, you know, through the lens of this moment, and it really resonated, you know, and that's cool.
We have time for one more question. We try to, you know, these are these brief hours, but you know, to dip into subjects.
You know what? I'd like to bring on Sally back, who had specifically a dramaturgy question.
Awesome. Sally, come back.
Let's see, am I back?
You're talking, but we don't see.
Hey, I'm back.
There you are.
Hi. Well, I had a dramaturgy question, but I think based on the way the conversation has sort of transformed it, my question is kind of for everybody, which is, I feel like we tend to sort of define ourselves by our work at times as theater artists. And so how do you reconnect with yourself or feel re-engaged with the world if you go through a period of time when you're unable to make work in the same way?
Anybody? This is hard, right? It's
we're always trying to re-engage. You could sign up for, you know, the meditation business is booming. The Buddhists are booming. So you can sign up for a meditation, whatever. You could hang out with your girlfriends. You can cook with your friends, and also as a parent. I think I discover that my deepest connection with the thrill of personal encounter is how much I miss the thrill of being with my children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
And physically hugging them, telling them, fuck off.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have a tradition here at Seen and Heard of ending with a poem, a communal reading. We're going to bring on some other folks to join us to read the poem. We're going to read, we lost a poet in the last few weeks, a woman named Evan Boland, who, an Irish poet, an extraordinary woman. So I want to invite some of you, see these wonderful faces coming. Cynthia, our managing director, Rebecca and Rachel Jones. Rebecca started out as an intern at Hartford Stage while getting her acting MFA, University of Ohio, and has been a beloved feature of A Christmas Carol for many years. And Rachel, her oldest, graduated from Williams College in 2018. So nice that you get to be with your daughter there. That's it's nice. Really and Amy Mandel, our board member, and Chrissy Ripple. Hello, Chrissy, also a board member and past president of the board, and wonderful Rachel Alderman. So we're all going to now read The Lost Land by Evan Boland. Cynthia.
I have 2 daughters. They are all I ever wanted from the earth, or almost all.
I also wanted one piece of the ground, one city trapped by hills, one urban river, an island in its element, so I could say mine, my own, and mean it.
Now they are grown up and far away, and memory itself has become an emigrant, wandering at a place where love disassembles itself as landscape.
Where the hills are the colors of child's eyes, where my children are distances, horizons, at night on the edge of sleep.
I can see the shore of Dublin Bay, its rocky sweep and its granite pier. Is this, I say, how they must have seen it? Backing out on the mailboat at twilight, shadows falling on everything they had to leave and would love forever. And then
I imagine myself at the landward rail of that boat, searching for the last sight of a hand.
I see myself on the underworld side of that water, the darkness coming in fast, saying all the names I know for a lost land. Ireland, absence, daughter. Thank you all for reading. Thank you to this extraordinary array of guests. It really is, it's a substitute, but it's not it's a poor substitute, but it's something for not all being together, seeing all the work and making work together. So I thank you all. We're going to now ask everyone to join for a toast. So everybody come back, turn on your videos, turn on your mics or whatever they're called. Mics, right? Turn your stuff on so we can see and hear you, and welcome our community back. Lucas, nice to see you. Nice to see you all.
Hey,
hello. Hi, everybody. Joanne and Jennifer and Annie and Paul and Vicky and Kay. What an honor to spend time with all of you. Thank you for your time. A toast to all that everyone has made and will make, for everyone's artistry in their homes and the meditative moments in your lives, and for Hartford Stage, and to all of you for your belief in the continued life of Hartford Stage, and looking forward to welcome you all back there in whatever form that takes. So happy Wednesday. Joanne, to you, thank you. Next week, we're going to celebrate University of Hartford, the Hart School graduating class that didn't get to do their showcase. So we'll get to see some of the Hart graduates. So join us next week for the next generation making work. But take care of yourselves. Thank you all for joining.
Amelia, thank you so much for having us.
Paul, we miss you. Annie, I miss you. Joanne, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Amelia.
Actually, the cookbook. Hi, Dan. Thanks for joining us. Thank you all. It's lovely. I'm trying to go through all the faces now just to greet people. So thank you.
Thank you, Amelia.
Thank you all so much. Bye. Much love to all. Bye. Thank you.